The night sky over the NASA Deep Space Communications Complex in California was clear and full of stars. Dr. Alan Wright sat at his monitoring station, his eyes tired from staring at screens for 12 hours straight. The radio telescope had been picking up strange signals for 3 days now, and Alan was determined to figure out what they were. "You should get some sleep," said Olivia Clark as she placed a fresh cup of coffee next to him. As the facility's top linguist, she had been working alongside Alan since the signals first appeared. "I can't. Not when we're this close," Alan said, taking the sip of the hot coffee. "These patterns aren't random. They repeat too perfectly." The year was 2087, and humanity had been sending signals into space for over a century with no response. Until now. Alan's computer beeped. The algorithm he had written finally decoded part of the signal. Numbers appeared on his screen. Simple mathematical sequences that couldn't be natural. "Olivia, look at this," he called out, his voice echoing through the empty control room. Olivia rushed over, her eyes widening as she saw the screen. That's a response to our own signals. Someone out there is talking to us." Within hours, the facility was filled with government officials, military personnel, and scientists from around the world. The President of the United States gave a historic address confirming what many had long suspected. Humans were not alone in the universe. Over the next week, Olivia worked day and night to understand more of the alien message. It contained simple images, mathematical concepts, and eventually, a basic language primer. "They're smart," she told Alan as they reviewed the latest data. "They figured out how to teach us their language by building on concepts we already understand." 3 months later, mankind received its first video transmission. The alien that appeared on screen had blue skin, 4 eyes, and spoke in a musical language that Olivia had partially translated. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Ambassador Xorlax of the Thraxian species. We represent the Concordia, an alliance of 17 sentient species across the galaxy. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations." World leaders agreed to meet the aliens. Landing zones were prepared, and security was tight when the sleek silver spacecraft descended from the clouds and touched down on a specially built platform in neutral territory in Switzerland. Ambassador Xorlax emerged with 6 other aliens of different species. They were all taller than humans, with different colored skin and various numbers of limbs. They bowed deeply to the assembled human representatives. "We have watched your world for some time," Xorlax said through a translation device. "Your species is young, but shows great promise." In private meetings with world leaders, Xorlax revealed the true reason for their visit. The Concordia was locked in a century-long war with a brutal empire called the Krivak Dominion. The Krivak conquered worlds and enslaved populations across 3 galactic arms. "We do not ask for your military assistance," Xorlax explained to the United Nations Security Council. "Your technology is still developing. We merely seek trade relations and perhaps cultural exchange. In time, your world may join our alliance as equals." The alien delegation showed humans glimpses of advanced technology, medical devices that could cure cancer, engines that could reach nearby stars, and materials stronger than anything on Earth. Many humans were excited by the possibilities. Others feared the aliens had hidden motives. Some religious groups declared the visitors to be either angels or demons. Dr. Alan Wright and Olivia Clark were appointed to the newly formed Human Concordia Exchange Program. As they studied alien language and technology, they learned more about the war that raged among the stars. "They think we're primitive," Alan told Olivia as they examined a star map showing Krivak territory. "They're just being nice to us because they need allies. Or resources," Olivia added. "But maybe they're underestimating what humans can do when we put our minds to something." Little did the Concordia know that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology, but adaptability. And soon, the galaxy would witness this firsthand. 5 years passed since the aliens first landed on Earth. The world had changed faster than anyone could have imagined. Cities now had strange new buildings with curved shapes. Cars floated above the ground. Doctors used alien tools to heal people who were once thought too sick to save. Commander Peter Daniels stood on the observation deck of the Concordia at Space Station Harmony. The massive structure orbited a gas giant in a star system 20 light-years from Earth. Through the window, he could see ships of all shapes and sizes coming and going. Some were smooth and round, others angular and covered in spikes. Each belonged to a different alien race. "Impressive, isn't it?" asked Lisa Murray, the engineer who had helped reverse engineer alien tech back on Earth. "And to think, 5 years ago, we didn't even know any of this existed." Peter nodded. "The Admiral chose us for a reason. We need to show the Concordia that humans deserve respect." Their small team of 6 humans had been invited to attend a military summit as observers. No one expected them to contribute anything important. After all, humans were still new to space travel. The meeting hall was enormous. Hundreds of alien military leaders sat around a circular table. Ambassador Forlax nodded at the humans as they entered. "Our Earth friends may observe from the back," said General Zav, a tall insect-like alien who led the Concordiate forces. His tone made it clear he thought little of the human delegation. Peter and his team took their seats quietly. The various alien species discussed battle plans, troop movements, and defensive strategies against the Krivak. Most of it went over Peter's head, but he took careful notes. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed on every wall. "We are under attack," shouted an officer. "Krivak ships have bypassed our outer defenses." The room erupted in chaos. Screens showed enemy vessels approaching the station. How had they gotten past the Concordiate fleet? "Proceed to emergency shelters," ordered General Zav. "This station's defenses will hold until reinforcements arrive." But Peter noticed something on one of the screens that the others missed. "Sir, they're targeting the shield generators. They know exactly where to hit us." General Zav ignored him. The aliens continued their evacuation procedures, following strict protocols. A massive explosion rocked the station. The lights went out, then emergency power kicked in. "Shields at 20%, announced a computerized voice. Peter turned to his team. "They have someone on the inside. These aren't random attacks." Lisa pointed to a maintenance shaft. "We can reach the auxiliary control room through there." Without waiting for permission, Peter led his team through the narrow passage. They crawled through tight spaces while the station shook from more explosions. In the auxiliary control room, they found what they feared: a saboteur alien with 4 arms working to disable the remaining defenses. Peter didn't hesitate. He grabbed a pipe that had fallen from the ceiling and knocked the saboteur unconscious. "Lisa, can you restore the shields?" he asked. She nodded and got to work. "The main controls are locked out, but I can reroute power through secondary systems." Outside, Krivak boarding parties had breached the station. The alien soldiers were tall, with gray skin and sharp teeth. They carried weapons that fired bursts of energy. Peter found the station's internal communication system. "This is Commander Daniels. All Concordiate forces, the enemy is using our own defense protocols against us. Abandon standard procedures. I repeat, do not follow standard retreat patterns." He then organized the station's security forces into small, unpredictable groups. Instead of falling back to designated safe zones, they set traps and ambushes. Lisa managed to get the shields back online, just as a Krivak warship moved in to deliver the killing blow. The enemy ship's weapons bounced off the restored barrier. 2 hours later, Concordiate reinforcements arrived to find the station damaged but intact. The human team had not only exposed a spy, but had organized a successful defense using tactics the Concordiate had never considered. General Zav approached Peter with all 4 of his eyes blinking in what the humans had learned was surprise. "Commander Daniels, it seems we have underestimated your species," he said. "The Krivak expected us to follow our established protocols. Your unpredictability saved many lives today." For the first time, the aliens looked at the humans not as primitives, but as potential allies worth having. Admiral Elizabeth Howard stared at the message on her desk. She read it again to make sure she understood correctly. The Concordia High Council, the ruling body of the 17 alien species, wanted human military help. Not just technology sharing or trade, but actual soldiers and ships to fight against the Krivak. "Is this real?" she asked the alien ambassador who sat across from her. Ambassador Forlax nodded, all four of his eyes blinking in sequence. "Very real, Admiral." The events at Harmony Station changed many minds. Commander Daniels and his team showed qualities we had not seen before. Elizabeth stood and walked to the window of her office. Outside, she could see the rebuilt skyline of Washington, D.C., now mixed with alien architecture. Earth had changed so much in just 5 years. "You told us when you first arrived that our technology was too primitive to help in your war," she said. "We were wrong," Sorlax admitted. "Your weapons may be simpler, but your tactics and thinking are unlike anything in the galaxy. The Krivak cannot predict what humans will do." Within hours, leaders from every nation on Earth met to discuss the request. Some wanted nothing to do with an alien war. Others saw opportunity in joining the Concordia as true allies. "We should help them," said President Garcia in the emergency United Nations session. "If the Krivak defeat the Concordia, how long until they find Earth?" "But at what cost?" asked the Chinese premier. "How many human lives are we willing to sacrifice for alien problems?" The debate lasted for days. Finally, they called in Gregory Martins, Earth's top diplomat, to negotiate terms with the Concordia. Gregory was a calm man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent the last 5 years learning alien customs and languages. Now he sat across from the entire Concordia Council in their massive chamber on Harmony Station. "If humans join this war," Gregory said, "we want 3 things. First, accelerated technology sharing. Second, a guarantee of Earth's independence regardless of the war's outcome. Third, human officers commanding human soldiers." The alien leaders whispered among themselves. Such demands were bold for a species so new to galactic politics. "We agree to your terms," said the Thoraxian counselor after their discussion. "But we require your forces to be deployed within 90 days. Gregory smiled. "We'll be ready in 60. Back on Earth, nations worked together like never before. The United Earth Defense Force was formed with volunteer soldiers from every country. Factories worked day and night to build ships using alien designs combined with human innovations. Colonel Samantha Reeves walked through the massive hangar where the first human battle group was being prepared. 10 ships, each carrying 200 soldiers and crew. They weren't as large or powerful as Concordia vessels, but they were faster and more maneuverable. "Are you worried?" asked her second-in-command, Major Joe Bennett, as they inspected the flagship. Samantha watched as workers installed the final weapon systems. "About fighting aliens?" "Sure. About whether we can make a difference?" "Not at all." The training was intense. Human soldiers learned to use alien weapons and technology. They studied Krivak battle tactics and Concordia protocols. But most importantly, they practiced being unpredictable. "The Krivak expect enemies to follow logical patterns," Samantha told her troops during a briefing. "We won't do that. We'll be illogical, creative, and surprising." 60 days after the agreement, the human battle group was ready. Families gathered to say goodbye to the first humans who would fight in an interstellar war. There were tears and brave smiles as the soldiers boarded their ships. Admiral Howard addressed the departing forces from Mission Control. "You carry not just the hopes of Earth, but of many worlds that have suffered under Krivak attacks. Show them what humans can do." Colonel Reeves stood on the bridge of her ship as the engines powered up. The stars awaited, and with them, humanity's first true test as galactic citizens. "All ships report ready, Colonel," said Major Bennett. Samantha nodded. "Then let's make some noise. Launch the fleet." One by one, The 10 ships rose from Earth and accelerated toward their rendezvous point with the Concordia fleet in the contested Proxima sector. The human battle group arrived at the Proxima sector after 2 weeks of faster-than-light travel. Colonel Samantha Reeves looked out from the bridge of her flagship, the UED Intrepid. The view took her breath away. Hundreds of alien ships floated in the darkness of space. Some were small and quick. Others were massive like floating cities. "Incoming transmission from the Concordia command ship," said Communications Officer Linda Puttle. A moment later, the face of Admiral Zix appeared on screen. The alien had green skin and 6 eyes arranged in a circle around its head. "Colonel Reeves, welcome to the front lines," said Admiral Zix. "Your ships will take position in the rear guard. We do not expect your vessels to engage directly in combat." Samantha frowned. "With all due respect, Admiral, we didn't come all this way to sit in the vac." The alien blinked several of its eyes. "Your ships are small and your weapons are weak compared to Krivac destroyers. We appreciate your enthusiasm, but we must be practical." Before Samantha could argue further, alarms blared across the fleet. Krivac ships had been spotted entering the system. There were over 200 enemy vessels, more than twice the number of Concordia ships. "All hands to battle stations," ordered Samantha. "Power up all systems." The Concordia fleet moved into its standard formation. Large ships in the center, smaller and faster ships on the edges. It was a pattern they had used for decades. "They're doing exactly what the Krivac expect," said Major Bennett, watching the tactical display. Samantha nodded. "And that's why they keep losing. Signal the other human ships. We're moving to position Delta." The 10 human ships broke formation and spread out in a pattern that made no sense to the alien observers. Some moved above the main battle area. Others dipped below. A few seemed to be heading away from the fight entirely. "Colonel Reeves, return to formation immediately," demanded Admiral Zix over the comm. "Sorry, Admiral. We're having communication problems," Samantha replied, then signaled to cut the transmission. The battle began. Krivac ships fired powerful energy weapons at the Concordia fleet. They targeted the largest ships first, as they always did. The Concordia returned fire, their ships moving in practiced, predictable patterns. "Now," ordered Samantha. The human ships activated their secret weapon. Kyle Perkins, a brilliant programmer from Seattle, had developed a combat AI that could analyze Krivac battle tactics in real time. The AI wasn't designed to follow logical patterns like alien systems. Instead, it used human intuition and randomness to make unpredictable choices. The UED Intrepid swooped down on a Krivac destroyer from above. The enemy ship didn't react in time, not expecting an attack from that direction. Human weapons, enhanced with alien technology, tore through its shields. "Target engines and weapons only," ordered Samantha. "We want to disable, not destroy if possible." Across the battlefield, human ships appeared where the Krivac least expected them. They attacked from blind spots, used debris as cover, and changed directions randomly. The Krivac, used to fighting the logical and predictable Concordia, couldn't adapt. Their formations broke apart as they tried to chase the nimble human vessels. "This is our chance," Samantha told the Concordia admiral. "Their formation is broken. Attack now." Admiral Zix hesitated only briefly before ordering the Concordia fleet to advance. With the Krivac in disarray, the Allied forces pressed their advantage. 3 hours later, it was over. The Krivac had retreated, leaving behind dozens of disabled ships. It was the first major victory for the Concordia in years. On the bridge of the Concordia flagship, alien leaders gathered around a tactical display, reviewing the battle. "The humans attacked without pattern or reason," said a Valerian commander, his tentacles waving in confusion. "They seemed to move almost randomly." Admiral Zix turned to Colonel Reeves, who had been invited aboard after the battle. "Your tactics defied all military logic, yet they were surprisingly effective." Samantha smiled. "That's the human factor, Admiral. We don't always follow logic. Sometimes we follow our gut feelings. Gut feelings? Asked the confused alien. Intuition, explained Samantha. Sometimes the best move is the one your enemy would never expect because it seems so wrong. The aliens still didn't fully understand, but they couldn't argue with the results. For the first time in a century, the Krivak had been decisively defeated. Word of the victory spread quickly through Concordia space. Humans, once seen as primitive newcomers, were suddenly the most talked-about species in the galaxy. News of the human victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On planets that had suffered under Krivak attacks, people celebrated in the streets. In the halls of the Krivak Dominion, leaders gathered in anger and fear. How could such a primitive species defeat our best ships? Demanded Supreme Commander Drox, slamming his fist on the black metal table. His gray skin flushed purple with rage. They use no logic in their attacks, said Fleet Captain Vorn. Their movements appear random, making them difficult to predict. Drox narrowed his yellow eyes. Then we must learn more about these humans. Send spies to their ships. I want to know their weaknesses. Aboard the UEDF Intrepid, Lieutenant Ryan Phillips walked through the quiet corridors during night shift. As head of security, he made these rounds every night. Most of the crew was asleep after the celebration of their victory. Ryan noticed something odd. The door to the communications room was slightly open. It should have been locked at this hour. He drew his sidearm and approached quietly. Inside, a figure hunched over a computer terminal. It wasn't human. The being had gray skin and was smaller than a human adult. A Krivak spy. Don't move, said Ryan, pointing his weapon at the intruder. The spy spun around, reaching for a hidden weapon. Ryan fired a stun blast. The Krivak collapsed to the floor. Within minutes, Colonel Reeves and the senior officers gathered in the ship's secure meeting room. The unconscious spy lay on a medical table. How did it get aboard? Asked Samantha. Must have snuck on during the post-battle confusion when we docked with the Concordia station, said Ryan. What do we do with it now? Ambassador Xorlax, who had joined the human fleet as an advisor, spoke up. Concordia protocol is clear. Spies are executed immediately as enemies of the Alliance. The human officers looked uncomfortable with this suggestion. We don't work that way, said Ryan. We could question it instead. Learn valuable information. Question a Krivak. Xorlax's 4 eyes blinked in surprise. They are trained to die rather than reveal secrets. Samantha considered this. We'll try our way first. Lieutenant Phillips, you'll lead the interrogation. Use psychological tactics, not physical force. When the spy woke up, it found itself in a comfortable room, not a prison cell. Ryan sat across from it with a friendly smile. My name is Lieutenant Phillips. Would you like some water? The confused Krivak refused to speak at first, but over 3 days, Ryan used methods that surprised the watching aliens. He showed kindness to the spy. He shared stories about Earth. He asked about the spy's family. On the 4th day, the spy spoke. His name was Krell. He had been sent to gather information on human technology. Gradually, he revealed more. Details about Krivak ship weaknesses, patrol routes, and even the location of a secret base. Ambassador Xorlax was amazed. In all recorded history, no Krivak has ever cooperated with enemy forces. How did you manage this? We showed him we could be trusted, explained Ryan. Sometimes mercy is more powerful than fear. The Concordiate leaders were stunned by this approach. In their cultures, enemies were to be destroyed, not understood. This human concept of showing kindness to capture hearts rather than using force was revolutionary. Admiral Zix called an emergency meeting of all fleet commanders. The information from the spy could change the course of the war, but more importantly, the admiral wanted to understand these strange human methods. Your species continues to surprise us, Zix told Colonel Reeves. First your unpredictable battle tactics, and now this, mercy toward enemies. Samantha smiled. Humans have fought each other for thousands of years. We've learned that true victory isn't just defeating your enemy. It's turning enemies into friends when possible. As word spread about the captured spy and the information he provided, other alien races in the Concordia began to view humans differently. They weren't just useful for their unpredictable battle tactics. They brought an entirely new perspective on warfare and diplomacy. The Krivak leaders, meanwhile, grew increasingly concerned. Their reports showed that more spies had been captured, and unlike those caught by other Concordiate species, the ones captured by humans often revealed critical information instead of taking their own lives. For the first time in the Long War, the Krivak faced an enemy they truly did not understand, and that made humans the most dangerous species in the galaxy. 3 months after the first human victory, the war had changed. Human scientists, led by Dr. Natalie Ortiz, worked day and night in a laboratory on the UED of Intrepid. They studied damaged Krivak ships captured in battle. "Look at this," Natalie said to her team, pointing to a piece of alien metal. "Their shields work on a different frequency than ours. If we adjust our own shields, we might be able to block their weapons better." The team worked for weeks, testing different settings and materials. Finally, they developed a new shield technology that could resist Krivak weapons for twice as long as before. When Natalie presented her findings to the Concordiate Science Council, the alien scientists were shocked. They had been fighting the Krivak for a century, but had never thought to study enemy technology this way. "We always focus on making our own technology better," explained a Valerian scientist. "The idea of adapting to the enemy's specific weapons is unusual. On Earth, we call it counterintelligence," said Natalie. "Know your enemy better than they know themselves." The Concordiate began to adopt this human approach. Soon, all Allied ships were fitted with the new shield technology. Meanwhile, the human military leaders suggested changes to the Concordiate command structure. For thousands of years, alien fleets had rigid chains of command. Orders came from the top and were followed exactly. There was no room for individual thinking. "This makes you predictable," said Major Frank Sullivan during a strategy meeting. "Your captains need freedom to make decisions based on the situation they face, not just follow orders blindly." The alien commanders resisted at first. The idea of giving lower-ranking officers authority to make important decisions seemed dangerous and chaotic. "What if they make mistakes?" asked Admiral Zix. "They will," admitted Frank. "But they'll also find creative solutions that no central command could think of. The benefits outweigh the risks." Reluctantly, the Concordia adopted a more flexible command structure for the next battle. When the Krivak attacked a mining colony in the Rigel system, the Allied response surprised them. Instead of moving as one large force, Concordiate ships split into smaller groups, each acting independently. The Krivak could not predict where the next attack would come from. Their forces scattered, trying to defend against multiple threats at once. From the bridge of his ship, Major Sullivan watched the battle unfold. He commanded a small group of mixed human and alien vessels. "They're retreating from the southern quadrant," reported his tactical officer. "Should we pursue?" In the old system, Frank would have had to ask permission from high command. Now he made the decision himself. "No. They want us to chase them. Instead, we'll circle around and hit their supply ships. Without fuel and ammunition, their fighters are useless." This unexpected move forced the Krivak fleet to abandon the attack completely. The mining colony was saved with minimal casualties. After the battle, Frank introduced another human concept: special forces, small teams of highly trained soldiers who could perform specific, high-risk missions. "Regular troops fight the main battles," he explained to the Concordiate Military Council. "Special forces strike critical targets behind enemy lines." Frank began training mixed teams of humans and aliens. He taught them to work together despite their physical differences. The Valerians could breathe underwater. The Thoraxians could see in complete darkness. Humans brought endurance and adaptability. These teams carried out daring raids on Krivak bases and supply lines. They sabotaged weapons factories and freed slaves from work camps. Each successful mission boosted Allied morale and confused the enemy. The tide of war began to turn. After decades of losing ground, the Concordia started to push the Krivak back. Human ideas and tactics made the difference. In the Grand Council chamber on Harmony Station, Concordiate leaders updated their star maps. For the first time, they removed the red markers of Krivak control from several star systems. "The humans have changed everything," said a Thraxian counselor. "They arrived with the weakest ships and the least advanced technology. Yet their ideas are winning this war." Earth was no longer seen as a primitive newcomer to galactic politics. It had become a key strategic ally and a symbol of hope across the stars. The Krivak Dominion was in crisis. For the first time in centuries, they were losing territory. Their leaders gathered in their dark throne room on their homeworld to discuss desperate measures. "These humans have changed everything," growled Supreme Commander Drox. "Their ships are weaker than ours, yet they keep winning." An older Krivak with battle scars across his face stepped forward. "There is only one solution. We must eliminate the source of the problem." "You mean Earth?" asked Drox. "Yes. If we destroy the human homeworld, we break their spirit and remove their influence from the Concordia." The plan was set. The Krivak would gather their largest fleet ever, over 500 warships. They would bypass the front lines and make a direct assault on Earth. The attack would be so swift and powerful that the Concordia would have no time to respond. On the UEDF Defiant, Captain Diana Mitchell sat in her quarters reviewing battle reports. Diana was known for her ability to spot patterns others missed. Something about recent Krivak movements bothered her. "Computer, show me all Krivak fleet movements from the past month," she ordered. The screen displayed countless dots moving across star systems. Most were engaged in battles with Concordiate forces, but Diana noticed something strange. Several large Krivak ships had quietly withdrawn from the front lines. Where did they go? She wondered aloud. Diana spent hours tracking the missing ships through captured communication logs. What she found chilled her blood. The Krivak were gathering a massive force in secret, and its target was Earth. She immediately contacted Colonel Reeves, who had recently been promoted to general. "I need to speak with the Concordiate High Command immediately," Samantha told Admiral Zix after hearing Diana's report. "The Krivak are planning to attack Earth." The Allied fleet was scattered across 3 galactic arms. Gathering enough ships to defend Earth would take time. Time they didn't have. The Krivak fleet would reach Earth in just 7 days. "We can't get all our forces there in time," said Admiral Zix. "Even at maximum speed, most of our ships are too far away." Samantha looked at the star map. "Then we'll use what we have. Every ship within 2 days' travel of Earth needs to head there now. We'll make our stand at Jupiter." Messages flashed across the galaxy. Human ships broke off from their missions and raced back to the solar system. Friendly alien vessels joined them, but it wouldn't be enough. They would be outnumbered 3-1. General Reeves arrived at Earth and met with world leaders. "We need to prepare for the worst," she told them. "Activate all planetary defenses, and I need every ship that can fly, even civilian vessels." On the day of the battle, the Allied fleet took position near Jupiter. 97 military ships formed a defensive line. Behind them floated nearly 200 civilian ships, cargo vessels, research ships, and even luxury cruisers hastily fitted with weapons. "The civilians should retreat to Earth," suggested Admiral Zix. "They cannot survive combat." "They know the risks," said Samantha. "But this is their home they're defending." The Krivak fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel, a massive wall of warships that seemed to block out the stars. Leading them was the Dominion, the largest battleship ever built. "All ships, hold position," ordered Samantha. "Remember your training and trust your instincts." The battle began with a blinding flash as hundreds of Krivak weapons fired at once. The first line of human and Concordia ships took heavy damage. Some exploded immediately. Others drifted, crippled but still fighting. On Earth, Billions watched the battle through live feeds. Children huddled with their parents. World leaders stood in silent prayer. This was humanity's darkest hour. Aboard the engineering ship Nova, Paul Garcia worked frantically on a device he had designed. It was untested and dangerous. A wormhole disruptor that could theoretically close the space lanes the Krivak were using to bring in reinforcements. "It's ready," he told his captain over the comm. "But it has to be triggered manually from inside the enemy formation." The captain looked grave. "That's a one-way trip, Paul." Paul nodded, looking at a picture of his family on Earth. "I know, but if it works, it's worth it." The battle for Earth raged for hours. Human and alien ships fought side by side against the massive Krivak fleet. The space around Jupiter flashed with explosions and weapons fire. Engineer Paul Garcia piloted his small shuttle toward the heart of the enemy formation. His wormhole disruptor hummed behind him, using more power with each passing minute. "I'm approaching the target zone," he reported to General Reeves. Samantha's voice came through filled with static. "Paul, we can still find another way." "No time," he replied. "Just make sure it counts." Paul's shuttle weaved between massive enemy ships. Occasionally, a Krivak vessel would fire at him, but he was too small and fast to hit easily. Finally, he reached the center of their formation, where the space lanes converge. "This is it," he said, taking one last look at the photo of his family. Device activated. The wormhole disruptor glowed bright blue, then exploded in a flash of energy. A massive shockwave spread outward, catching half the Krivak fleet. The space lanes they used for faster-than-light travel collapsed, trapping the ships in normal space. More importantly, no reinforcements could arrive. Paul's sacrifice changed the course of the battle. The remaining Allied ships pressed their advantage. Human civilian vessels rammed into Krivak ships, disabling them at the cost of their own crews. It was desperation and courage against overwhelming force. 3 days later, the battle ended. The Krivak Dominion, their flagship, drifted powerless near Ganymede. Supreme Commander Drox had been captured. The remaining enemy ships retreated, but with the space lanes disrupted, they scattered across the galaxy. On Earth, celebrations erupted across every city and town. Humans and aliens embraced as allies and friends. Paul Garcia was honored as a hero, his name added to monuments around the world. 2 weeks after the battle, representatives from all species gathered at the United Nations in New York. It was time to discuss peace terms with the defeated Krivak. "They should be punished severely," argued a Thraxian counselor. "Their worlds should be occupied, and their resources seized." Several alien delegates nodded in agreement. Revenge was the traditional way after centuries of war. Gregory Martinez, the human diplomat who had negotiated Earth's entry into the war, raised his hand to speak. "The Krivak fought because they feared being dominated by the Concordia," he said. "If we treat them harshly now, we only prove their fears were justified." The room fell silent as Gregory continued. "Humans fought each other for thousands of years before we learned that lasting peace comes from fairness, not punishment. I propose we offer the Krivak membership in a new alliance, one where all species are truly equal." Many aliens were shocked by this suggestion. The Krivak had been their enemies for generations. The idea of treating them as equals seemed impossible. General Reeves stood to support Gregory's proposal. "We didn't fight this war just to create a new enemy for the future. We fought for a galaxy where all intelligent life can thrive." After days of debate, a new council was formed. The Galactic Alliance replaced the Concordia, with representatives from all species, including the Krivak. Humans were given a prominent seat despite being newcomers to space. On the final day of the conference, General Samantha Reeves addressed the gathering. "A year ago, humans were unknown to the galaxy. We arrived with primitive ships and simple weapons, but we brought something more valuable than technology: hope and a different way of thinking." She looked around at the diverse faces watching her. "The universe is vast and likely holds many more challenges. We will face them together, not as rulers and subjects, but as equals. Later that evening, Gregory Martinez stood with Ambassador Sorlax on the observation deck of a space station orbiting Earth. Below them, the night side of the planet glowed with city lights. "Did you imagine this outcome when you first came to Earth?" Gregory asked. Sorlax's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Never. We thought you might provide some resources or a few soldiers. We never expected humans to change galactic civilization itself." Gregory smiled. "That's what humans do best. We don't just adapt to the universe. We help the universe adapt too." As they watched, a ship departed Earth, heading to the stars. It carried the first mixed crew of humans, Concordiate species and former Krivak soldiers, explorers seeking new worlds beyond known space. The war was over, but humanity's journey among the stars had just begun.